Have you ever wondered why, despite having more connections, more options, and more information than ever before, we still feel more lost, more anxious, and more confused about who we really are? If you've ever stared at your phone screen, endlessly scrolling through other people's curated lives, and silently asked yourself, who am I in all this noise? Then this message is for you. Today, I invite you to stay with me until the end of this journey, because what we're about to explore may not just describe your struggle. It may give you the tools to finally begin reclaiming your sense of self. We live in an age where our identities are not just formed in the privacy of our homes or the quiet of our thoughts. They are displayed, curated, and judged in real time by an invisible audience. Social media has given us the power to craft a digital version of ourselves. On the surface, this seems liberating. You can choose the perfect photo, write the perfect caption, even reinvent yourself with a swipe and a filter. But beneath that lies a haunting question. Is this really me or just who I want the world to believe I am? This dual existence, the real self and the digital self, creates a constant tension. The more time we spend curating, the less time we spend living authentically. And slowly, without noticing, we begin to compare our messy, imperfect lives to the carefully edited highlight reels of others. Suddenly, our real experiences don't feel good enough. Our achievements seem small. Our flaws feel unbearable. And so we retreat deeper into the echo chamber, chasing validation through likes, comments, and follows, forgetting that no amount of digital applause can fill the silence of an identity crisis. But it's not just social media. We are also living in a world of rapid technological shifts that constantly remind us of our fragility. One day, you're on top of your game. The next, your skills feel outdated. Entire industries are being disrupted, and with that disruption comes a subtle but terrifying message. If you don't keep up, you don't matter. This quiet fear of obsolescence seeps into our identity. Who are we if what we know and what we do could be replaced overnight by an algorithm or machine? Many people live with this dread without putting it into words, carrying a silent weight that eats away at their confidence. Then comes the paradox of choice. In theory, modern life gives us unlimited freedom. We can choose our careers, partners, lifestyles, even belief systems. The menu of possibilities is endless. Yet instead of liberation, many of us feel trapped in indecision. Every choice feels final. Every option we leave behind feels like a loss. And so we hesitate, we procrastinate, we doubt ourselves. We fear choosing the wrong path so much that we end up choosing nothing at all. This paralysis doesn't just waste time. It erodes our identity because we start to believe that we are incapable of making decisions about our own lives. And when you combine these three forces, the curated digital self, the fear of being left behind, and the crushing weight of too many choices, you get a perfect storm of identity confusion. We begin to ask questions not as a path to discovery, but as a desperate cry for meaning. Who am I? What do I stand for? Where do I belong? These questions used to be answered by community, tradition, or family. But in the modern world, where everything is fragmented and constantly changing, those old anchors feel too weak to hold us steady. This is why so many of us feel like we are drifting. We wear masks to survive. We play roles to fit in. But deep down, we know we are pretending. The crisis is not that we don't have identities. It's that we have too many, and none of them feel truly ours. But here's the truth I want you to take with you right now. This crisis, as overwhelming as it feels, is not a dead end. It is a call to stop outsourcing your identity to the noise around you and to begin the journey inward. Because only by facing this confusion can you uncover something real, something authentic, something no algorithm or echo chamber can define for you. So as we move forward in this series, I invite you to see your identity crisis not as a weakness, but as the beginning of your hero's journey. You are not lost. You are standing at the threshold of transformation. The only question is, will you take the first step? What happens when life, as you know it, suddenly stops making sense? When the ordinary routines you thought defined you are ripped apart, leaving you staring at an unfamiliar world. This is the moment Joseph Campbell described as a call to adventure. In myths and legends, it is a point when a hero's predictable life is interrupted by something strange, disruptive, even terrifying. But this isn't just the stuff of ancient stories. It is happening to us every day in the modern world, often in ways we don't immediately recognize. Think about the times when life forces you to confront the fragility of your identity. You lose a job that once gave you purpose. A relationship ends, shattering the image you had built of yourself as someone's partner. Or you experience digital burnout, waking up one morning with the crushing realization that the hours you've poured into scrolling, posting, and consuming have left you empty. These are not random inconveniences. They are modern-day calls to adventure, knocking at the door of your ordinary world. And yet, how do most of us respond? We resist. We deny. We cling tightly to the identities we have outgrown because they feel safer than stepping into the unknown. Campbell called this stage the refusal to call, and it is as alive today as it was in every myth he studied. When you lose your job, the temptation is to chase the exact same role again, even if it no longer fits who you are. When a relationship ends, many people rush into another one just to avoid sitting alone with themselves. When burnout strikes, instead of changing how we live, we double down on the same patterns, telling ourselves, "It's just a phase, I'll be fine." But deep down, we know something larger is at work. Why do we resist? Because stepping into the unknown feels like death. It requires letting go of identities that once gave us meaning, even if they no longer serve us. And letting go is terrifying. The familiar, even if painful, feels safer than the unfamiliar. The comfort zone may be suffocating, but at least it's predictable. To walk away from it feels like betrayal, not just of who we were, but of who others expected us to be. This is why the call to adventure is so often ignored, numbed, or delayed. People drown it in distractions, addictions, or endless busyness. They tell themselves stories to avoid facing the truth. This job isn't that bad. Maybe if I just try harder, it will work out. Everyone feels this way. So why should I expect different? These stories protect us from the terror of the unknown, but they also trap us in cycles of repetition that slowly erode our spirit. And yet, hidden in every disruption lies a promise. The call to adventure is not here to destroy you. It is here to transform you. When your old world collapses, it is not punishment. It is invitation. It is life's way of saying, the identity you've been wearing is too small for who you are meant to become. Think about every myth you've ever known. Frodo leaving the Shire. Neo waking up from the Matrix. Even religious stories are filled with moments where the ordinary collapses, forcing the hero to confront a deeper destiny. This is not just mythology, it is psychology. Our crises are coded with meaning. They are thresholds. The question is not whether you will face them, but whether you will answer them. The modern problem is that we often don't recognize our calls to adventure as sacred. We treat them like inconveniences, setbacks, failures. But what if they are not failures at all? What if losing that job wasn't the end, but the beginning? What if heartbreak wasn't proof that you are unlovable, but an invitation to meet yourself more deeply? What if digital burnout wasn't weakness, but a signal that your soul craves something real beyond screens and algorithms? To see the disruption this way requires a shift in perspective. Instead of asking, "Why me?" we begin to ask, "What is this trying to teach me?" Instead of running from the unknown, we learn to step toward it. Instead of clinging to the old identity, we dare to believe that something greater might be waiting on the other side of loss. And so I return to the question I asked you at the beginning. What happens when life suddenly stops making sense? The answer is this. It means you are being called. Called to leave behind the ordinary world you thought defined you and step into a journey that will demand more courage, more honesty, and more authenticity than you have ever known. It is not an easy call to answer. Most people refuse it. But if you dare to accept it, you may just discover that the collapse of your old life was not an ending, but the doorway to a truer, deeper, more resilient self. When we finally stop resisting the call to adventure and step away from the familiar, we are not immediately greeted with clarity. Instead, we often find ourselves lost in a confusing, shadowy landscape. This is a stage where the old identity has loosened its grip, but the new one has not yet formed. It feels like floating between two worlds, neither belonging to the old nor anchored in the new. And it is here, in this uncertain space, that self-doubt begins to whisper the loudest. The moment we attempt change, the inner critic wakes up. It tells us we are not ready, not capable, not worthy of transformation. It asks, who do you think you are to imagine a different life? Who are you to believe you can rewrite your story? These questions do not come from truth, but from fear. They are the echoes of every past failure, every comparison, every judgment we've absorbed from others. This is the abyss of self-doubt, and unless we learn how to face it, it will pull us back into the safety of the old identity we tried so hard to leave behind. But here is where mentors enter the journey. In ancient myths, the hero never walks alone. There's always a guide, a wise teacher, a mystical figure, or even a humble companion who offers direction in the darkest moments. In our world, mentors may not appear with staffs and cloaks, but they are everywhere if we know how to recognize them. They could be a therapist who helps us untangle our thoughts, a self-help book that speaks to us at exactly the right time, a podcast that feels like it was made for us, or even a quiet moment of reflection where our own intuition takes on a role of a guide. The mentor does not walk the journey for us. Instead, they help us see that the strength we seek is already within. They hold up a mirror, reminding us that the fears we battle are not signs of weakness, but signs that we are growing beyond what is comfortable. Sometimes a mentor is not even a person, but an experience, a failure that teaches us resilience, a challenge that forces us to confront hidden parts of ourselves. The point is not where the guidance comes from, but that in the abyss of self-doubt, we are never completely alone. Of course, having guidance does not mean the path is easy. The trials begin here. For many of us, these trials take the form of internal demons. Imposter syndrome creeps in, making us feel like frauds even when we are taking genuine steps forward. The fear of failure looms so large that we hesitate before every decision, paralyzed by the thought of making mistakes. Comparison poisons our progress as we measure our worth against the highlight reels of others, forgetting that their journey is not ours to live. These battles are invisible to the outside world, but inside, they can feel as epic and exhausting as any dragon the heroes of old had to face. This is also the stage Campbell described as the belly of the whale, the symbolic death of the old self. In this space, the masks we once were no longer fit, but taking them off feels like stripping ourselves bare. It is uncomfortable, raw, and often lonely. Many people turn back at this stage because it feels too heavy to carry on, but the belly of the whale is not meant to destroy us. It is meant to purify us. It is the dark cocoon where transformation silently takes root. Think of it this way. The caterpillar cannot become a butterfly without dissolving into formlessness inside the chrysalis. For a time, it is neither caterpillar nor butterfly. It is something in between, unrecognizable even to itself. That is exactly what the stage of the journey feels like. And if you are here, if you feel like you've lost who you once were, but cannot yet see who you are becoming, take heart. It means the process is working. In these moments, mentors remind us of one essential truth. You do not have to be fearless to move forward. You only have to be willing. The doubts will come, the fears will shout, but they do not define you. What defines you is the choice to keep walking, even when you cannot see the destination. The abyss of self-doubt is not proof that you are weak. It is proof that you are on the path. Because only those who dare to leave the ordinary world ever encounter these trials. And while it may feel like the hardest part of the journey, it is also the most necessary. For it is here, in the struggle against your own shadows, that you begin to uncover the strength you never knew you had. And so the journey continues, not with the clarity of answers, but with the courage to face the next trial, knowing that every step through doubt is shaping the self you are destined to become. Once you have stepped into the unknown and confronted the whispers of self-doubt, the journey does not suddenly become easy. In fact, this is where the real work begins. The road of trials is not a single obstacle, but a series of challenges, each designed to strip away illusions and test the strength of your emerging self. At times, it feels relentless. Just when you think you've made progress, another test appears, forcing you to dig deeper. And yet, it is through these trials that you begin to reclaim your narrative piece by piece, truth by truth. The first and perhaps most essential step on this road is learning to slow down and listen to yourself. In a world that thrives on distraction, this is harder than it sounds. Mindfulness is not just meditation or breathing exercises. It is a radical act of paying attention to your own life. When you sit with your thoughts without trying to escape them, you begin to notice the stories you've been telling yourself. Stories of inadequacy, of failure, of not being enough. By seeing them clearly, you can begin to separate fact from fiction. Journaling becomes a powerful tool in this process. Writing down your fears, your desires, your daily reflections turns the chaos of your inner world into something you can see and understand. Words on a page reveal patterns. You start to recognize the voice of your inner critic, and slowly, you learn that you do not have to believe everything it says. Through writing, you begin to reclaim authorship of your story. Boundaries are another trial on this path. For so long, your identity may have been shaped by what others expected of you, saying yes when you wanted to say no, carrying responsibilities that were never truly yours. On the road of trials, you are forced to confront this pattern. Setting boundaries feels uncomfortable at first. It risks disappointing others. It risks conflict. But without them, you cannot sustain a self that is authentic. Every time you honor your own limits, you reclaim a part of yourself that was once surrendered. Then there's a trial of passion. Somewhere along the way, many of us lose touch with what excites us, what makes us feel alive. We trade curiosity for productivity, joy for duty. Reclaiming your narrative means daring to pursue passions, no matter how impractical they may seem. Picking up an old hobby, creating something just for the sake of creating, learning a skill that sparks curiosity. These small acts are not trivial. They are reminders that you are more than a role, more than a label, more than what others need from you. They are pieces of your soul calling you back. But perhaps the greatest trial on this road is the temptation of validation. After all, so much of the identity crisis begins here, in the desperate search for approval from others. It is easy to fall back into that trap, to measure your worth by external applause. But on this path, you are asked to turn inward, to find motivation that is not dependent on likes, titles, or recognition. This shift is difficult. It requires faith in your own voice, even when it feels quiet compared to the noise around you. And yet, every step you take without seeking external permission strengthens your sense of self. All these trials lead to one supreme ordeal, confronting the core fear that has been shaping your life all along. Maybe it is the fear of failure, so strong that it has kept you from trying. Maybe it is the fear of rejection, so heavy that it has silenced your voice. Maybe it is the fear of being ordinary, so haunting that you chase perfection until you collapse. Whatever form it takes, this fear lies at the heart of your identity crisis. The supreme ordeal is not about defeating it once and for all, but about facing it directly, seeing it for what it is, and choosing to move forward despite it. In that confrontation, something remarkable happens. You realize that the fear was never as powerful as you imagined. It lived in shadows, growing stronger only because you avoided looking at it. By facing it, you take back your power. You may stumble, you may even fall, but you rise with a clearer sense of who you are and what you stand for. The road of trials is exhausting, yes, but it is also liberating. Each challenge overcome is a thread woven into the fabric of your identity. Each lesson learned becomes a foundation stone for the self you are building. And with every step, you move further away from the person you were told to be and closer to the person you are meant to become. This is how you reclaim your narrative, not in one grand gesture, but in small, courageous choices repeated day after day. It is not easy and it is not quick, but it is real and it is yours. After every trial, after every confrontation with fear and shadow, comes a moment that feels almost unreal, the return. In myths, the hero emerges from the underworld with treasure, with wisdom, or with a gift that transforms not only themselves but also their community. And so it is with us. When we endure the storms of identity, when we face the abyss of doubt and walk the road of trials, we do not come back empty-handed. We come back carrying something far greater than what we lost, the elixir of authenticity, resilience, and meaning. But returning is not as simple as stepping back into the world we once knew. After change, the old world feels different. Or maybe it is we who have changed too much to fit back into it the same way. Friends, family, colleagues may still expect the old version of us, the one who played roles to keep the peace, the one who sought validation instead of truth. And here lies the challenge. Can you bring your new self into the old world without shrinking back into who you used to be? This is the true test of integration. It is not about living in a permanent state of transformation, nor is it about rejecting everything from your past. It is about carrying the lessons of your journey into the everyday rhythms of life. It means showing up to your work with clarity, not as someone desperate for recognition, but as someone who knows their worth. It means entering relationships with honesty, no longer molding yourself just to be accepted, but choosing to be loved for who you are. It means using technology as a tool, not a master, because you no longer confuse the curated self with the real one. The elixir is not one thing. It is a wholeness you reclaim when you stop living split between who you are and who you pretend to be. It is a quiet confidence that comes from knowing you have faced your fears and survived. It is a resilience that grows when you walk through the darkness and discovered light inside yourself. And most importantly, it is a meaning that arises when you realize your journey was never just about you. It was also about what you bring back to others. Because the truth is, our struggles are rarely ours alone. When you grow, you unconsciously give others permission to grow. When you speak your truth, you remind others that silence is not the only option. When you live authentically, you inspire others to question the masks they are wearing. In this way, your personal elixir becomes collective medicine. Still, sustaining this new self is not effortless. The world will tempt you to forget, to slide back into old roles and patterns. That is why the journey is never really over. Identity is not a fixed destination, but an ongoing evolution. You will face new calls to adventure, new trials, new crises that will once again challenge who you think you are. But this time, you will not be starting from nothing. You will return to those challenges carrying the wisdom of your past journeys. You will remember that the crisis is not a curse. It is a call, and you will answer it with more courage than before. To live with the elixir is to live awake. It is to recognize that every disruption is not an end, but a doorway. It is to walk into each new season of your life with humility, knowing that you are always becoming. And it is to trust that even in moments of confusion or pain, there is something valuable being shaped within you. This, then, is a promise of the hero's journey in our modern world. We may not slay dragons or find magical swords, but we fight battles just as real. The battle against doubt, against fear, against the noise that tries to drown out who we are. And when we return from those battles, we carry treasures that no one can take away. Authenticity, resilience, and a sense of meaning that makes even ordinary life extraordinary. And so, as you walk forward from here, remember this. You are not who you were when this crisis began. You are someone new, someone braver, someone more whole. Carry that with you. Share it with others. Let it guide you into every choice, every relationship, every moment. Because the elixir you bring back is not just for you. It is for the world that is waiting for the real you to step forward. So, if this message resonated with you, don't just keep it to yourself. Begin applying it today in your own life. Share your story, inspire someone else, and take the next step in your journey. And if you want to keep walking this path with me, make sure to follow Whispers of Psychology, because together, we're not just surviving identity crises, we're transforming them into our greatest adventures.